Okay.
Hello everybody, welcome to those in the room and to those listening to us either in real time or subsequently on YouTube. We're here with the Society for One Place Studies today, and we're going to talk about three-dimensional one-place studies. And if you're wondering what on earth we're going to mean by that, just stay tuned for a little while and hopefully we're going to be able to explain. What we're going to talk about is the objects that you might acquire, collect, be aware of that relate to your place. And when we thought of as long a list as possible between us, we're going to look about how you might access things like this, and then once you've accessed them, what on earth you're going to do to record them, store them, preserve them in whatever way happens to be appropriate to you. So I happen to know, because she's just showed us, that Kirsty has something wonderful for her place. So if you'd like to wave your show and tell thing, Kirsty, we'll
Well,
all listen.
I've got quite a few things actually.
Yeah, well, give us a couple, and then we'll see if anyone else has got any, and we'll come back.
But with my places, because they're very small villages, it's actually extremely hard to find anything that is sort of what I call physical memorabilia for my place. So I'll share the larger one first of all, and I'll share the smaller ones afterwards. But this is mine.
Wow.
So that's it's not the statue itself, but that's a statue, or a picture, I should say, of a statue that was presented to somebody called, I'll just read it off the front now, presented to Vincent Pollexfen Carmody. Now that's a good name. By his friends, with other tokens of their personal regard and esteem, in grateful recognition of his hospitality and of the sport he has shown while hunting in the Teckott country for so many years. And it was presented in 1893. The actual statue itself was sold at Sotheby's for quite a lot of money. I forget how much, but certainly out of my price bracket. But the picture itself was put onto eBay quite some while ago, and unfortunately the original frame had already been removed, and you could see where it had been originally. So I just got a new frame for it. It's actually got pride of place in my living room, because I have two sort of wall cabinets, and there's a space in the middle, so it just sits in the middle. So it's on display all the time.
Kirsty, you know what's amazing about that?
What's that?
I'm going to now probably spend the whole hangout trying to find exactly his name. But I've got a Calmady Pollexfen.
Yeah.
It's either like Hamlin, Calmady, Pollexfen, Calmady, or Calmady.
That's him. That would be the same family.
Owned Eastlake Farm, my grandmother's farm.
It may well be the same family, because when I did a little bit of research into him, Kim, when I got the picture, he's actually not from Teckott originally. I forget where he's from, but it may well be the same family.
Well, I've got a map survey of all his properties in the 1700s and a gorgeous map of Eastlake. There's a whole portfolio of. I'm going to look now and see if he's got something out in Teckott or Luffencott. Fast, brilliant. You love it.
It's amazing the connection.
More, isn't it?
Amazing the connections. As we often say, the world is a very small place. More so in Devon, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that does just highlight what we're finding more and more as our society builds up, is that we're actually cross-fertilising with each other. Yes, I was trying to think of the right way of putting that. But we're actually finding we can help each other, and things do cross-reference, and there are similarities and there are connections, and that's just becoming more and more apparent. I will apologise on behalf of all of us to our viewers. We are going to be all kind of stretching sideways and disappearing off screen while we reach for our objects of desire that we're going to be showing you. So if you wonder what we're doing, that's probably where we've gone. It's quite difficult to reach things and do things with screens and what have you as well. While I'm here, I'll just show you one of mine. And before I do, Kirsty's already highlighted two places where you might be able to pick this sort of thing up. I think most of us have got saved searches on eBay for our place names, and I've said before it's not one of my one place studies, but I do have an interest in a little hamlet called Car Green, and if you save that on eBay you get every green car and every child's pyjamas that have got green cars on them all come up, so that's a bit of a fail on that one, but you can get all sorts of strange things. I've got, because my place, or one of my places, is a holiday area, we have handy, get it the right way round, commemorative china with the place's name on it. See, so I have a nice collection. This, for the benefit of those who are viewing this from outside the United Kingdom, this style of blue and white china with sort of touristy place names on is quite common. So you'll get pretty much exactly the same thing with a whole variety of names on it. And I've got about half a dozen pieces of Bucks Mills china. And Peter, now he's started Herne Bay, you'll get some with Herne Bay on, Peter. I'm quite sure.
Yeah, there's no shortage of artifacts like that, easily found on eBay, and of course thousands of postcards, mainly of the resort, but a few of the high street and the other streets as well. So there's no shortage of memorabilia for Herne Bay.
And things to spend your money on, I think, more to the point.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, trying not to.
Now, Peter, I'm guessing because I know you're in the middle of a house move that you may not have on to hand things that you might want to wave at us. But if you have, please go ahead.
That's right. No, other than photographs on walls, but I guess everybody's got a few photographs on walls. I live in I'm living at the moment in an 1826 house, so the background behind you is it was one of the first houses built in Herne Bay before it was even officially made into a town by Act of Parliament in 1831. So this predates that, which is all very interesting for me. And it's got an ancient well on this property as well, which I think was shared between the properties adjacent. It's got a servants' quarters at the back. It's got stables, still as they were nearly 200 years ago. But short of walking around with my laptop, anything really to show you yet. I haven't been collecting very much at the moment.
That's fine, but in fact you've brought up something which I hadn't really thought of when I hurriedly put together what on earth are we going to talk about, and actually of course the buildings themselves are three-dimensional. Yeah. And although we can't buy them on eBay, sadly, if only we could, well we can sometimes, but probably not within the budget. No. They are part of the three-dimensional background and artifacts to our place, even though we can't pick them up and move them around and so on. Kim, have you got, I'm working down my little line, so Kim, have you got anything you wanted to wave at us, or are you?
The only thing I've got is something courtesy of Kirsty, and now I'll probably spend the rest of my time trying to get hold of that when she got in her hand. But was when you tipped me off, Kirsty, about the deeds for sale.
Oh yes, I remember.
And I did pick those up at a pretty penny. But
sorry.
Those were really neat. But otherwise, I'm really on this hangout to hear a lot more about how best to go about finding things. I don't really have anything. So maybe Candace.
That's allowed.
I don't know,
Yes,
I think you have, sorry, I was just going to interject. I think that the difficulty, Kim, that you probably have similar to mine is that there isn't so much there. So it's hard because like I have, like Janet was saying, the standard eBay email out once in a while that says, oh, there's nothing new, or gives you crazy little crests that someone's selling for 50p or something for just about anywhere in the world. But actual real stuff, I've pretty much got, well, I've got everything in front of me, and it's not a whole lot. And I think that's the problem when you're studying quite a small place.
Yeah, and I guess one thing I'm thinking about is it's not of the time, but I do have a book, and it's by Sabine Baring Gould, and there's still
Yeah.
a Sabine Baring Gould Appreciation Society today. He was a very prolific author. He was also wrote the hymn "Onward, Christian Soldiers," and his dad was a vicar in, I think, New Trenchard, but he used to cover a number of the services there at Bratton Clovelly, because I see him in the registers all the time. And Sabine Baring Gould was very, very popular, and he wrote novels, and he wrote a novel called Red Spider that I've got, and it was about Bratton Clovelly. It was located in my parish, and it tells me an awful lot about the early to mid 1800s. He even went so far as to take the names from parish registers and use kind of real names, and use names like Squire Impey when the Lord of the Manor was Wimpy and things like that. So so at least I do have that, which I love, and I can learn a lot about it.
Thanks, Kim. And we'll just say hello to Ros, who's just joined us. We're just going down the line, Ros, and seeing what we might or might not have for our places. And I think it's Candice's turn on the end there. So do you have anything yet, or are you, like Kim, looking for ideas?
No, my problem is I have too much stuff. I've inherited a great number of items. I've got scads of them here, and I'll show you a few of them. But actually, the one that I like the best is this. It's a blanket. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
It's a wool blanket, and it was made in the Dayton wool factory, probably about 1860. The wool mill was the first one established in Illinois in 1842, and it was there until the late 1870s when it kind of went under due to debt. But I have this blanket and another blanket and various things that were made there. So that was my big item.
Lovely.
Wow.
That's amazing, from such a long time ago.
Yes. Well,
Candice, which place is your study?
It's called Dayton. It's a small village in northern Illinois.
Wow.
Tell us a couple other things you have, Candice. I'm really curious now.
Okay.
We all are, I think.
All right. Well, here's this one. Let's see. Can you? I don't know if you.
Yeah, we see it. Yeah.
It's a spooner, and it came to me from a cousin with a note in it that said, "Part of a set bought of Harry Green at the Dayton store about 1880." So I thought, well, all right, I kind of know who Harry Green is. I mean, he's a relative. So I thought I'd investigate the situation with the store. So I did a bunch of research in newspapers and things like that, and found out that, in fact, this is was one piece of a set that was popular. It was in 1878, I believe. So this was bought when it was fairly new. It's called Queen Anne is the pattern. And I actually found a newspaper clipping that said that Harry Green, the man who sold this, he actually ran the store in Dayton, and that he gave a set of glassware to a cousin of his for a wedding present. Now, I don't know that it was this set of glassware, but it could have been. It was just about the right time.
Oh, that's lucky.
We're all sitting here with big grins on our faces because we think it's so amazing.
But I wonder, though, I don't know whether this is the case, but I wonder if in the States people keep things like that more than we do over here.
Well, don't forget that we're a lot younger. They didn't have to be kept as long.
But I mean, that picture is 1893 that I showed before. But I would struggle, I think, to get anything about my place that was prior to that.
Well, I got this. This, for instance, is a bottle from the Dayton Dairy, and it's a farming area, and Dayton is a village, but it's also the name of the township that surrounds it. So the Dayton Dairy drew from all of the farmers, and in fact my own family. But I got this on eBay. So, but I was lucky in that most of these things that I have, I inherited, since my family's been there since the beginning of the village.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it does help if you've got family from your place,
Yes.
because one of my places is very much connected with my one name my surname study, and so therefore I've been able to collect a lot more for that place, partly because I've got a lot of help because we've got a whole society doing it. But I think that does make a difference. I will say the oldest thing that I've sort of got, which isn't for one of my places, but it's for somebody's place, and it does relate to the surname study, dates from about 1300, and somebody was metal detecting and turned up a token. So for the benefit of people who aren't familiar with these are like coins, but it's not a coin that's universally recognised. It was a coin that would be just recognised locally, and that relates to a place in Buckinghamshire. And I don't actually have it, but very kindly the person who dug it up and was allowed to keep it because it wasn't of significant value monetarily, he contacted me for more information about the person, and in return he's given me a sort of impression of this. I think he's kind of like pushed it into some Play-Doh or something, and I have the impression of it, but it's in the box that didn't quite make it here. But that was amazing, and things that have been dug up as metal detecting finds. Obviously what happens to them differs in different countries, but certainly in the UK there is a site, and I think it's called something like Small Finds, and I did mean to look up the proper URL, and I will make a note to myself to do it, and I will make sure that is published or publicised somewhere, because things that are of great value count as treasure trove, so you're not allowed to keep these. But this is a site where the things that are deemed to be insignificant in the greater scheme of things, but nonetheless incredibly interesting, they go on this site together with a description of where they were found and how big they are and all this kind of thing. And you can actually search that by place name. So you can look and see what's been dug up by somebody who's doing an archaeological survey or a metal detection in your place. Now, I've no clue whether there's anything similar in any other country, but certainly we have that here, and that's really, really quite fascinating, the sorts of things. Like, you see, and here's my next thing, look, musket balls. These are 17th century English Civil War musket balls. We do get them dug up round where I am quite a lot. In fact, these came from the Battle of Newbury, I'm told. Who knows? Came from eBay. And I got those not because I'm interested in Newbury, but because I'm interested in the English Civil War. But on them, I mean, they could be from anywhere. So the provenance helps decide that they're from my place, rather than anything obvious that will tell me that this is something. I mean, I've got a Victorian iron that was dug up in one of my places. If you looked at it now, you wouldn't know that it had got any connection with the place. So you have to have the caption really to go with it, and that's, it's handy when you know, but you've got to know, and then somebody else has got to know as well. Otherwise, that link's lost, which is a bit of a shame. Ros, we haven't given you a chance. I've given you a chance to sit and join in for a minute. Have you got anything you wanted to show us, or are you here to learn, see what suggestions we've got? Or
well, I'm still finding things, trying to find things. Mostly, I've got searches going on eBay, which tell me when there are things dedicated to South Pool, which is my one place study, and I've had some picture postcards from there, and I had a wonderful find from there. It was a letter, and it was postmarked 1841.
wow,
And it was from Portsmouth to South Pool to somebody who might be related to me even, because I recognised that surname. And it was when they didn't have envelopes, and so you'd write the letter and then fold it and sealing wax stamp it. Well, when it got to me, unfortunately, the sealing wax had been broken. So I thought, well, and I opened it all up and read it and couldn't understand a word. I mean, I could understand it, but I didn't recognise any names or anything. But just to have something there with a postmark of 1841 is lovely. But I'm still looking otherwise.
Yes.
I think it's a continual look, isn't it? Just keeping the roving
yeah.
eye everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, 1841.
Oh, beautiful.
Postmark. I mean, weren't some of the earliest stamps about that?
Yeah, that's
Yes,
pretty
in the
right
1840s.
at the beginning. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
You were lucky
wonderful.
to outbid all the stamp collectors on that one, I think.
Yeah, I should imagine.
Well, I don't suppose anybody else was interested because I don't know. It didn't cost me very much, only a couple of pounds.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was amazing.
I thought you were going to say like 20 or 30 or higher than that.
Yeah, and I've seen postcards that are about a couple of pounds, £2.50, and then I'll get another little email from eBay saying I could buy such and such a print for £18.50, and I'm thinking, no thanks, postcards good enough for me.
Yeah, in fact, better, I think.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Because the thing with the postcard, of course, it's not just the front, it's the back.
Yes.
And I remember going to a postcard fair once and trying to educate one of the dealers into the fact that there's an awful lot of people out there who are going to be just as interested in the backs as they are in the fronts. And that had never occurred to him. So I've actually picked up things that they're, like you say, they're addressed to somebody in your place, but the picture on the other side could be anything. But of course, when things go on somewhere like eBay, or if you go to a postcard fair, things are automatically filed by the picture on the front, or listed by the picture on the front. And actually what you want is what's on the back. And getting that's much more difficult. So it's a shame.
Well, I offered £5 for a postcard on eBay, and they kind of turned me down flat.
Wow.
I don't know how much everybody's paying for postcards. It wasn't, it wasn't it was a couple people from Bratton Clovelly, but I don't know that it was any special event. It wasn't any special event or anything.
I think you pay more for the things that are not standard scenes. So if you've got the unveiling of the War Memorial or something like that, they can go for big money. And also, of course, as soon as you tell a postcard dealer you want postcards from such and such a place, somehow the price seems to go up.
It's surprising, isn't it?
Amazing.
You do find that they suddenly, I mean, you can pay anything from kind of 99p to £20, really, depending on what they are. Not good. But of course, there are, maybe I shouldn't be saying this in a public forum, but sometimes people put postcards on without protecting the pictures. Or you can screenshot the picture, so you've at least got something that you can hang on without, but then you have to be careful what you do with that, because I hasten to add, there are copyright issues with that, but just for you to look at to see what was there.
Well, that's my latest acquisition of a postcard. That was of the Church of Southpool, and it didn't look terribly wonderful. But then I noticed from the screenshot that the person had put on the advert, when I hovered over it to make it really huge, there was a gravestone in the front of a lady called Jane Elliot. And Jane Elliots are in my tree. So I thought, I'll have it. I don't care if it doesn't look very nice or if it's a bit battered. I'm having it.
Yes. Well, something that I couldn't possibly have got here to show you that related to a place that isn't actually one of my registered one-place studies, but I had some interest in for some time, and that's a grandfather clock that was made by a clockmaker in the town, and that came up through eBay, and also had a surname link to the surname I was studying, and somebody else thought it was lovely and paid for it. Initially it was put on with just the place name, but without the clockmaker's name. And then halfway through the listing, it was listed for some length of time, they added this extra information about the surname. And at that point, of course, it was we need to bid for this. But that I mean, you've got something like that, you need somewhere to put it. and this is part of the problem, I think, with all these things. And I was like, I'm still waiting for Candace to I think we need to go back to her to see if she can show what else she's got to show us, because she's got a whole store down there, haven't you? So we're all kind of in awe of your collection here.
Well, one of the I can't show you this one because it's rolled up in a closet, but it's a schoolroom map, the kind that pulled down like a shade that they had in the grade schools, and it's a map of the county, and surrounding the map are pictures of various farms or buildings, and across the bottom is the only picture we've ever seen of the whole riverfront of Dayton. It's the picture that I use on my website as the sort of theme of the whole thing, and it came off of that map. So luckily my mother liked to go to sales, farm sales, estate sales, and so when the school closed in the late 1960s, she went to the auction that they were getting rid of the stuff from the school, and she bought all the maps. So, but no, go ahead.
No, carry on.
I was going to say the one thing that led me to some more investigation is a book that, this is another thing my mother found at a sale, but I'll hold it up so you can see what it says, I hope. The sticker says, this is the property of the literary department of the Dayton, of the library department of the Dayton Literary Society. This is book number 70, and it goes ahead and it lists the rules of the society. You could take the book out for 2 weeks. If you were a day late, excuse me, I just had to. If you were late bringing it back, you got fined 5 cents a day. If you brought it back unnecessarily soiled, you got fined 10 cents. And the librarian was not allowed to issue books to anybody who had fines due, and nobody could have more than one book at a time.
Oh.
And this library was centrally located. It was in the local store, and the librarian was also the storekeeper. And I suspect they had something like a couple hundred books. This was number 70. So this one is a biography of a man, an Illinois politician who was at one time governor of the state of Illinois.
What year is that book, Candace?
1855.
Whoa.
Oh, lovely.
I think we had the same fines, about the same size when I was growing up. They were doing well at that time.
Of course, they just said they had it. They didn't say they actually collected it.
Well, true.
While we're on the book kind of theme, and as you said that, I thought of something which I haven't got an example of, but of course, particularly people of the middle classes who had what pretended to be libraries, they would often have book plates. So a little engraved plate, this is the property of Mr. So-and-so, Esquire. So those are something that turn up now and again, and there is quite a collector's market for those, so they don't turn up very cheaply. But if the lord of the manor in your particular place had that kind of thing done for them, and it was a sort of keeping up with the Joneses idea, so you did it because everybody else of your class did it, but it's not something I've actually come across, because most of the people who live in my places weren't exactly of that status. But I do have school prize. This is a Sunday school prize. I also have school prizes. This particular one, she's stuck a newspaper cutting of her father in there for some reason. Oh no, I tell a lie. It's a newspaper cutting of the superintendent of the Sunday school, who is actually a relation. But that's the school prize. And it occurs to me that there ought to be a sort of swapping mechanism somehow, because I didn't get the artifacts I was meant to get, long story. I've just been wobbling around the house thinking, oh goodness, I now haven't got anything to show. What have I got? But I've got a lot of things that don't relate to my places, because they relate to my family who lived in other places, because I couldn't possibly study every place any branch of my family have ever lived in, because they're too spread out. But there must be people who are interested in I've got a little prize for my great-grandmother who was at school in a little village in Essex. Well, if someone's studying that little village in Essex, then maybe I should be making an effort to contact them. And here, I do have something of that sort. This, which has got nothing to do with books, it says, presented to Miss Champion by the workmen and their wives of Under Trees Farm, May the 14th, 1879. And that was given to my mother by her next door neighbour, so he has absolutely no sentimental value to me whatsoever. Sometime, it's in Kent, Under Trees Farm. I did a bit of looking, and I did discover the Champion family there in the 1881 census. It is real silver, so if anyone who lives in Under Trees Farm or any relation of the Champion family of Under Trees Farm, I have this. I do not require to keep it, but I just haven't got around to doing anything about returning it to its rightful home. But it just happened to be, and I think it was probably on the occasion of her marriage, but it doesn't say that and why the workman had given it to. She was the lady of the house, or the unmarried daughter of the house, and what she'd done to please them, I don't know. But I've ended up with it, and I feel that it has. I haven't even cleaned it, as you can probably see. It's just stuck in a box, and I had a bit of trouble finding it. And I'm thinking there is someone somewhere who would value that as an item, and it's not me. And that's a shame. So
it's just doing the family history downwards then, and trying to find someone who's descended from her, isn't it?
Yes. Or I did at one point, and in fact, I drafted a letter to whoever now owns Under Trees Farm, because I thought that might be another person who might be interested. But I never got as far as it's on the to do. Well, it's not even on the to do list. It's just there. I've completely forgotten about it for 2 years until tonight. So
I've done a bit of that, getting things back to people that I've found, and tracking down to a living descendant and returning things to people. That's very satisfying.
Yeah.
Where is it, Janet? Under Trees Farm?
Under Trees Farm. It's somewhere in Kent. I did find out where, but at the moment I can't. I can't remember, but I have got somewhere precisely where it is.
Bodmarsh?
Doesn't ring a bell. Okay. You're Googling as we speak, aren't you?
Canterbury?
Well, we've got an Under Trees Farm, but not an Under Trees Farm.
Well, no, it's definitely Under Trees Farm. As I say, when I did it a couple of years ago, I did find a village name, but
Wickenborough, or whatever it's called, however you pronounce it.
No, that sounds a bit more familiar.
Because I think, isn't that registered with us? Doesn't Paul Carter do Wickenborough?
Oh well, even I must have a look and see.
Well, I'll keep googling. You keep talking amongst yourselves, and I'll Google. I'm sure that's what he's registered, but anyway, I'll look.
I mean, obviously.
I just want
to carry on.
Sorry, I just wanted to go back to Candace for a second on the mention of book plates, because Candace, I know I had book plates as a kid. I was quite a reader, and they weren't fancy, Janet. I mean, but my books had my book plates, and I thought, Candace, maybe in the States they might be a little more prevalent, because that was kind of something a reader as a kid you would have.
Yes, certainly. I see a lot of my own books had book plates when I was a child, and I think that frequently when I go to used book sales, I'll see a lot of books that have book plates in them. It was certainly a common thing to do. I don't think every family book plated every book.
No. But your good books.
The special ones, yes.
Oh yes, I used to do that as well. I used to have book plates, and I also had a rubber stamp so that I could, in a nice and this is the property of, and so yes, I had a proper rubber stamp, and I was only a little girl.
I don't know how international these are, but we have, and I'm probably the only, or Peter might remember, something called a John Bull printing outfit, which was like a little red frame, and you pushed in little letters, and you stamped with an ink pad. and I stamped everything with my then surname and public library on all my children's books. It was just a bit of a shame I couldn't spell library, really. Spelling at the time wasn't my strong point, but I don't think that would have much historic value. But you're right, anything like that that's it's ephemera, really, and this sort of thing is sad that it just gets thrown away, whereas people like us would be really interested in it. I've got
I was right, by the way. It is Paul Carter.
That's amazing.
Wickenborough.
Wow.
And it's definitely in Wickenborough, this Under Trees Farm.
I googled Under Trees Farm, and every single reference comes up with Under Trees Farm, Under Trees Road, Stodmarsh, which is in Wickenborough.
Yeah, I'm sure it's Stodmarsh. I'm sure that's it.
Yeah.
While you're busy googling, just bring it up on the 1881 census with Champion.
I'll have a look. Before I finish the job completely, I was just going to share with you a book,
yes, do.
Which we've all got billions of books like this. I found this, English country churches, in a random bookstore. I think it was in Hazelmere or somewhere miles away from where I live, and like we do, pop in and have a little look and see what's in there. And of course, English country churches, what do? Go to the back of the index and look up your one place studies. So I looked up in the back, and there are 3 places in Devon: Ashton, Columpton, and would you bloody believe it, Tetcott. Of all places, only 3.
Benefit of everybody is tiny.
It's
and
minute.
It's not the place you would expect if there are only 3 places in Devon.
And it's got a page and a half, that which incidentally is also, I don't know if you noticed the author, written by Richard Bryars, as in the actor. Yeah. On the back it says, actor and author Richard Bryars has had a long and passionate interest in all English country churches. Well, who knew? Well, I certainly didn't, but I do now. And this splendid book is his personal tribute to the power and noble beauty of our ecclesiastical heritage. County by county, he's visited 100 of our most memorable churches. Well, who knew that Tetcott was one of the most memorable ones?
Yeah.
But it just says Tetcott Church is almost certainly the most obscure in this book. You're not kidding me. Tucked away in South Devon, close to the Cornish border. Well, Spitton, you probably actually hit the border. It's a plain rustic building constructed in the late 13th century with the addition of a tower, east window and south chapel 2 centuries later. And it gives you some information about the people that on the plaques and so on and so forth. But just amazing, of all the places in the whole of Devon. And now I will return to my job, Madam Chair.
Oh dear.
Back with you soon.
While Kirsty's looking at that, this is just a sheet of paper. I know we said 3-dimensional, and I know this is 2-dimensional. This is an advert for a woolen mill. Again, I've pinched this from my one name rather than my one place study. But it's an advert out of a magazine for a business. So I quite like that. So if you're interested in Sheepshed in Loughborough, then I have an advert that would go with your place.
No one's registered Loughborough. 100%.
No, I'm sure. I know you're right. I know, and it's too big. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Excellent. While you're working on it, what else do I have to hand? I have the winner of the winter egg production contest.
No.
Oh yes, 1953 to 1954.
No way.
This is a certificate for entering a flock of Thornborough pullets, which showed records at completion of the 5 months contest. They entered 48 birds. The number that were alive at the end of the contest was still 48, and they produced 6,030 eggs.
Oh my God.
So there you are.
Amazing.
And he never produced another one again.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Has anybody got anything else they'd like to show us? I'm sure.
I can show you something else in the midst of my championing, if you like.
Yes, please do.
This is the only thing I have.
Ah, yes, I see it.
For Luffingcott, which is the parish that's right next door to Tetcott. and this is the haunted rectory, which has quite some history, and is no longer there because it was allegedly haunted and then burnt to the ground. So this is a picture postcard. Unfortunately, it's blank on the back. It doesn't have any postmark or anything on the back, but it's from 1909 or 1910. And I purchased it off eBay for possibly actually more than the picture that I showed you before, because there are just so few postcards at all for Luffingcott that I wouldn't have cared if it was over 50 quid, to be honest, which it wasn't. It was nowhere near that, but it was still significantly more than I would normally spend on a single postcard. But there's just so little, because Luffingcott literally has 50 people and has never really had more than 50 people living in it ever.
And
if the place doesn't exist anymore, then of course you would want that.
Yeah, I mean, well, exactly. The actual property burnt down not too many years after that. The rector actually is said to have fled from the rectory and refused to return because he thought it was haunted.
Wow.
There's quite the story behind it.
Was there any story behind the burning of it, Kirsty, or any?
Yeah, I've got a newspaper article actually. If I just can find it, 1907. Where is it? Is that the one that actually is about it? I'm just opening it. No, that's the one about it's just the one about it being haunted. The one that I've got there. But there is definitely a story behind it. I don't have it. I don't have the information on my.
About it is there was a school in the parish I study, Bratton Crivelli.
Yeah.
And it was around World War I, and a child got diphtheria.
Oh my gosh.
And that wasn't that unusual. There were diphtheria outbreaks. But the parents got in mind that the school was contaminated. And then there was talk that the wood from it had been used in a German prisoner of war camp and various things. But anyway, it went on to the point the parents barred their children from going to the school when it went to court, and there were newspaper reports of the kids running wild in this Bosley. And before you knew it, that school burnt down. And there was really, they just kind of reported it in the papers, and there was never any follow-up, you know.
What a surprise!
Gone, you know, and you just knew. You knew that was totally, that was going to happen. But I just wondered if somebody took it upon themselves to solve the haunting.
No, I don't think it was. I forget the story behind it now, Kim, but I don't think it was anything dubious.
Or maybe the show started it.
Yeah, well, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely got some newspaper articles, but from the top of my head, I don't recall. But yeah, definitely an interesting story.
Yeah.
Interesting story.
Well, I found that that letter to someone in my one place study. Let's hold it up, see if you can see it.
Oh yes, we see it.
Oh yeah,
yes.
It's just so. Hang on, I'm trying to do it this way.
Yeah.
And at the bottom down where my finger is tapping, it's got postage paid, and on the back it's got the cleaning.
Yeah.
And I I thought I might as well touch it, and it's an open, and all it is it's pieces of paper like that, and then they're all folded up, all carefully folded like that, and then
turning it into the envelope.
Wow. And as soon as I saw it on eBay, I thought, I'm having it.
Having that, yeah.
Mrs. Goodyear. Yes, Goodyear is one of my surnames. Yes, I know where. Yes, it's the right place. Yes, I'll have it. And I don't even know if it's my Mrs. Goodyear.
Well, never mind. It's just important to have anyway. Yeah, it might be. Who knows?
And this came from Canada.
Oh gosh!
Can you believe it? When I bought it, the seller was from Canada. How did Portsmouth to Southpool to Canada?
That's amazing, isn't it?
What a story.
Well,
we did get a Bible from the United States that came because we advertised the fact that we were researching this name, and someone was doing a house clearance and was doing a bit of, trying to get it back to a good home. As Candice said, you get this nice fuzzy feeling when you can reunite something, and they picked us up and said, you pay the postage, you can have it. So, we had that as well.
That's interesting, Janet. I was just, as you know, I was recently working on the migrants of Bratton Clovelly, a number of which went to Ontario, Canada. And one of the fellows who went was a Northie, which I'm sure anybody who's studying my area of Devon that probably will ring some bells. And there was another name with it, which would also, but it escapes me at the moment. But anyway, I was just looking on the internet to see if I could find anything. When you're looking for immigrants in the 1850s or so to Canada, you kind of look anywhere to find any mention of them. And I came across an article that back in about 2011 or something, a fellow was he ran like a bulldozer, little Caterpillar or whatever at a dump. And he stopped just in time. He noticed something, and he jumped down. He'd only pulled off the cover, and it was a whole set of photos of this Northey family and another family in Ontario, Canada at that time. And they're just gorgeous, and the photos weren't damaged at all. And of course, he tracked down and found a family member, and got it to the right people. But I just thought, what an extraordinary find, and it was just full of. I think they were in. I want to say Peterborough, but it was just full of just exquisite family photos at that period of time, just on a fluke. And he also found out. They did find out. I think when it got to the right family, they actually found out the woman who actually threw it out. It could have only been there. He said if it had been there any more than a few days, and she'd only thrown it out a few days before, had found it in the attic and had just tossed it. And it was just that fortuitous that he happened to spot it and save it before it was, destroyed.
I'd love it if somebody came up to me with the box and said, here's some photos. I think they're your family. Would you like them?
Yes.
I did that very thing. I bought a box of photographs at a garage sale for $5, and I went home. There were enough names on the back that I was able to track down a living descendant. I wrote him an email, and he was a little suspicious, but he checked me out. I happened to be on the board of our local genealogical society at the time, so he found something that reassured him that I wasn't, trying to take him. And so I sent him the stuff, and it turned out that it had come from an estate here in Urbana, and that woman had left her papers to our local archives. So I went to them and found a whole lot of family information for him, which I photocopied and sent off. And he took it to his father, who was still living. And apparently they had quite a heyday going through all of the information. So that was one of my big successes.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm very conscious, having just looked at the clock, that we're all having a great time here. But we did kind of promise that we would look at how you acquire these things, and we've already mentioned a number of ways that we can acquire things. And I think there's two strands to this. There's the artifacts that you actually have, and there's the artifacts that other people have and don't want to part with, but perhaps don't mind you having a photograph of, for example. So I happened to come across, there's a sampler worked by someone from my place who was then transported. And this sampler has ended up in a museum in Sydney. And there is actually a photograph of it online, and I wrote and asked for permission if I could put it on our One Place website, and I was told yes I could. Now I think not everybody would necessarily be that generous, but they were. So I don't have that, but at least I have a record of it, and I've got a couple of other photographs of samplers. And in some ways, it's the best of both worlds, because I've got the record, I can put it on the website, but I haven't got to think, where am I going to put it in my really tiny house?
Well, Janet, I don't know if you recollect, but when I talked about the soldiers of Bratton Clovelly at last year's conference, there is a woman in Bratton Clovelly whose family's been there for hundreds of years, and they were the postmasters and stuff. But anyway, and she has shared, she's got a cottage full of stuff that she's just tucked away all over the place, and one of the things she had was this autograph book of a young girl who was living at the time of World War I, and she brought it out. And I was looking through it, and I was studying the soldiers, and I realized that a number of the writings in it were from these World War I soldiers.
Oh, wow.
The girl was that age. And I don't know if you recollect, but on the last page of the book, I recognized another name. I knew that her brother had died in the war, but he wasn't in there. But there was another name, and I said, Mary, you know, this is another fellow who died in the war, and he had sketched a picture in her autograph book of a naval officer, and actually he was an Army private, but he was probably about 17, 18 when he did that, right before the war, and he was putting a ring on her finger, and Mary said, yeah, that was her sweetheart, and he died in the war. I just couldn't believe it, and she let me take photos of it, and I was just really treasured that. Another thing she's got, and I haven't taken photos yet, but which I'm very excited about, is one of her ancestors. While he was postmaster, he was also the tailor in the village, and he kept a ledger there in the latter 1800s, and there was a page for each of his customers and all the work he did for everybody in the parish, you know, and so you'd say, well, here was a tie or a shirt or everything, and I thought, that's just going to be a gold mine for trying to understand how they lived. And I mean, Janet, I know you have you've studied a lot about clothing of earlier periods and stuff, and I just thought that is just going to be so precious to really take a close look like that. So I will get that. So yeah, that may be the way I get more of my kind of close to 3D stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we have on our one of my places, which is where I live, which is Buckland Brewer, and we have a whole society, so I don't have to do that on my own. But on
Lucky devil.
on our website, we have got a page. We've only just started it now, which is a virtual museum. So that we're putting these things up as a virtual museum with just a tiny little bit of caption, and the things that we actually have to keep, obviously we bring out and display when we can, but the rest we don't have, and it's nice because people are willing, because they don't think you want it, they're quite willing to say, oh well, I've got, you know, here's some medals, for example.
Here's what I prepared earlier.
Here's what I prepared earlier. These might be, they're not actually, but this is just an example. If this were medals for somebody who lived in my place, then probably whoever owned them wouldn't want to part with them, but I could have a photograph of them and include that with our particular place website. And the same with a lot of things. I've got long service watch here, and again, if that was somebody from my place, that I could perhaps put that together with a photograph and a little bit of information about him. And I would have been collecting things for the surname for longer than I've been collecting things for the place, and a lot of it comes from descendants. And like Candice says, sometimes you can take a photograph of it and then reunite it with the person that is more closely connected to it. Sometimes people have come to us and said, my children and grandchildren aren't interested in this. Would you like it? Preserve? Yeah, would you like it? Because we know it will be valued and preserved, and that's great. But of course, some of these things really ought to be preserved under museum conditions, and certainly in the UK at the moment, money for that kind of institution is not forthcoming, and museums are closing, and the worry then is you put it into a museum, what's the longevity of that?
Yeah.
Where's it going to end up? And unless you've got the funding to set up your own museum, wouldn't we all just love that? There is a bit of a problem with that. And also what happens when if you are an individual with a nice collection like that, what happens when you're no longer there to look after it? And is there some kind of future proofing for that? And that's a wonderful cue, because next month Alex is going to be here. It's completely coincidental, and she's going to talk about future proofing our one place studies in various ways. So I don't think we've set an exact date for it yet, but that will be her topic next time, and I think that'll be will lead on from this really quite nicely. I will just, I don't want to go on too much longer than an hour, but I will just go back down the line if anyone else has anything to wave at us. Roz, have you anything?
No, I haven't got anything else.
Peter, we know yours is all packed in storage.
Oh, I have.
Good. What are you going to wave at us?
Well, I've got quite a few of these, but I'll just show you one that isn't in plastic.
Oh, tech hunt. Yeah.
Each year they actually have a badge. So that's 2009. I'll keep this one's in plastic still, but I think you can probably still be able to see it. That's a centenary one. So I have 2009. I actually have two 2009 ones. I don't know why. 2011. Then I have the centenary one, which is 1906 to 2006. The Supporters Club one, a sort of fairly generic one that doesn't actually have a date on, but it's just a sort of a fairly smart one there. I have a fairly interesting button, which is a little bit worn, but you can still see the TH on it for Tech Hunt, and a 2010 one. So yeah, just tied. But they're all very, I'll show you the one without the plastic on again. It's, very sort of shiny metallic
enamel
efforts,
sort of thing.
With a little pin badge on the back.
I wonder, Kirsty, I was just in the last time I was in Brant Clovelly, some fellow in Wales had asked if I'd go take a picture of a farmhouse from his ancestors. So we were kind of wandering around, and there was a hunt going on. Now I'm wondering if maybe, and it was right there. It was originating right there at the farm, actually, which was one of the oldest. There's quite a lot that still go on down there, Kim. Yeah.
Quite a lot.
Yes.
But I've got, although they're not related to my study, I've got a Torrington Pride of Tarka Country little pin as well. That's just, because I have ancestors from Torrington, and
football
a little
club.
Yeah, Holsworthy AFC, which is a football club jobby. So
where do you get these from?
Just eBay. All of those have got off eBay. Every single one. So yeah, I get a little email through once in a blue moon that actually is relevant, and then I put my watching on it or a maximum bid and hope to God nobody outbids me, or sit there at the time that it's actually going off, when the list ends, and I sit there and sometimes outbid people because I really, really want it. I think one item, I think it might have been the Loughborough postcard, I actually put £100 on the back bid. You can put, I don't care. I did not care how much it went for, but thank God I bought it. This postcard was £21.
Yeah,
wow.
It would be. Yeah.
Because there are so few of them. But like I said, I would have spent whatever it took. Whatever it took, I would have spent
£100?
This was 21. So, but I put a back bid on, when you can put in a kind of this is my bid, but I'll put that on. And then it kind of just keeps taking it when people put theirs on. So, thank God it didn't go that high. It's all right. Alex isn't in the house. He's just gone out to get the Chinese, so I can say that now.
You realise this is recorded, Kirsty, don't you?
And I realise that he is never, ever going to watch it. I'll make damn sure of it.
Candice, did you want to share some, anything else that you've got there?
Well, I've got just one thing that I think might be interesting. I couldn't bring the house that I grew up in because it's not very portable. No. But when my father remodeled it when he and my mother married, and when he he gave me quite a lot of information about how the house was constructed. And among other things, he pulled out a whole lot of these hand-made square nails.
Oh, wow.
Oh, gosh.
So I've got a whole jar full of them.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
I've got something almost the same. Well, not the same, but in a similar vein. This is a piece of granite that formed the walls of a local pub. Again, it's a family thing rather than a one-place thing, but it can be translated to one place. I found the pub on the tithe map for the 1840s, and then we found it on a modern Ordnance Survey map where it should be, and kind of up to my knees in mud along the banks of the River Tamar, with a baby in a pushchair, so you can tell how long ago that was. And it was down to its sort of 2-foot-high walls covered in brambles, and I collected that. And then we realised that we were the wrong side of a weir on a tidal river, and we had to kind of, my husband had to carry the baby in the buggy, balancing along the top of this weir to get back to the car. It was a bit of a memorable day, but I got my bit of rock from great granddad's pub. So I was happy. Is there anything else anyone would like to contribute or comment, or is there any questions we can ask if anyone wants us to suggest anything? Or
I'd just like to hear any last tips on where's best places to look.
I just Google search once in a while because I found it's more just because I had the picture that I showed you, and I just Google searched, and I do that regularly now because the statue had only been sold about 2 months prior that the picture is actually of, and sometimes you just get things that way. So just keep Google searching it once in a while, and new things will pop up.
Yes, I mean there are auctions. We've all, I think, made great use of eBay, but of course there are real auctions as well as online auctions, and again, often these things are way out of price brackets of the average person.
Yeah.
But you might be able to get a picture of the catalogue, or a photograph of the item, or a condition report, and then they think you're going to buy it, but you're not. But you might be able to get some details and evidence of the thing, even if you're not able to get hold of it yourself. And I think museums in the same way. I mean, they will vary very much in whether they'll allow you to photograph the item. Someone that I was interested in was a furniture designer, and designed furniture which ended up in Osborne House, which was Queen Victoria's beach hut, basically, on the Isle of Wight. And I got permission from English Heritage to actually go and have a look and see this furniture, and I was allowed to photograph it. I had to go in when the place was shut, but strangely I could only photograph the whole room. I wasn't allowed to photograph individual bits of furniture, which I thought was quite a strange restriction, but I did take the photographs, and unfortunately it was one of those rooms where, when this is years ago and I hadn't got a particularly sophisticated camera, it was quite difficult to get far enough away to get the whole room in. But I've got I've got the pictures, so again that was a rather convoluted way of finding out where it was and then getting the pictures. Anyone else got any hints they would like to share?
No, nothing we haven't already said.
Okay, well, I'm about to stop the broadcast then. I'd like to thank everyone in the room. I think this has probably been one of our better attended Hangouts on Air for people actually there contributing, so thank you very much indeed. We've also got several people who've been dipping in and out on the live, watching us live, and I'm sure there'll be some more watching us later on, particularly those who happen to be asleep now because of whereabouts they're living. Do try and catch up with us next month. We'll be advertising, when exactly it's going to be, about our future proofing, and join in with that. And there will be some kind of write-up of this at some point, particularly if we can make a story out of reuniting Paul Carter with his silver salver. That's quite a good one. So thank you very much, and just say good night to everybody.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Good night.